Nice buns, soft, fluffy, and ultra-low net carbs. Discover Hero Bread, the delicious, ultra-low net carb bread with incredible taste and texture. Hero Bread has 0 grams of sugar and is under 100 calories per serving. Plus, high in fiber with 5 to 10 grams of protein per serving. Order from hero.co now and get 10% off your first purchase with promo code AH10. That's 10% off with code AH10. HERO.co.
This is
Make It Plain.
Make It Plain.
MIP
With Masamela Matfumo.
Mark Thompson.
Make It Plain.
Get woke.
Folks, this week will be an historic reparations hearing coinciding with Black History Month, as we not only observe Black History Month, but we acknowledge all of the hard work that has gone into H.R. 40, the Conyers bill. And so here to talk to us about reparations, and we're going to be talking more and more about reparations, this legislation in particular, is someone who's been on the reparations battlefield for a number of years. She is one of our preeminent activist lawyers. We're going to hear a little bit about her history in the movement and what she thinks the prospects are for getting H.R. 40 passed and the prospects for reparations in general. She is also the author of a new book that everybody needs to get, Black Power, Black Lawyer. And let me just let everyone know what's made the book so popular and go viral is that the book chronicles a secret sex tape that she was involved in. So I know I got everybody's attention now. We're not going to talk about that today. We want y'all to get we're going to talk about reparations today, but you want to get this book, Black Power, Black Lawyer, and read about the sex tape that no one has seen and in any moment could just maybe appear. But let me not let that distract you from the subject at hand.
You were totally distracted me already, my brother. Dude, I want to get that for myself.
Our dear sister, the author of Black Power, Black Lawyer, Nkechi Taifa, attorney Nkechi Taifa. Nkechi, how are you?
Hey, my brother, how you doing?
I'm
Don't
good.
hype up your folk like that. It ain't all that. It gets juicy, but it ain't all that.
Well, everybody I've shared that with, they're like, oh my God, I got to go get this book. So that's what's going on. So first of all, how are you and how are you faring in this crazy pandemic and police-demic that we're dealing with?
Well, there's a pandemic and there's a police pandemic and the like, but let me tell you this, the issue of reparations is soaring on. So, hey, this is an issue whose time has come, whether it's a pandemic or what, it is here, it is happening, the time is now.
And as a matter of fact, many of the disparities we're facing, health-wise in the pandemic, justice-wise in the police-demic, reparations, well, let me add one more. The white terror-demic that we saw on Capitol Hill, all those things, reparations would actually address, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely and completely. Because most folk think that reparations is just for slavery, but absolutely not. It's for the enslavement era and everything that has happened afterwards up to today. Everything that's been enveloped in white supremacy, which is what we saw on January 6th. The health disparities that we saw with the advent of the health pandemic, the economic wealth gap, educational disparities, the mass incarceration, all of these issues are symptoms of the original sin, which has never been reconciled or reckoned with.
Nkechi, I think the audience would like to know a little bit about your history as an activist in the reparations movement, how you were introduced to it and how you came to be such a part of this. You've been involved in reparations most of your life.
Yeah, well, actually, my first memory is as a teenager selling Black Panther Party newspapers on the streets of Washington, D.C. And if anyone knows, in the Black Panther 10-point program, point number 3 talked about reparations. It talked about payback, for slavery. And it brought up the dichotomy between what was happening with the Jews being paid reparations, because we're talking about at that time, for me, that was like the early 70s. And what was not and had not happened for Black folk. So then as the years, went on, I became involved with various movements, most notably what I call the Black Power movement or the New African Independence movement. And we always were talking about reparations. In fact, every single movement, has talked about reparations, whether it was used that term or not. The Garvey movement, the Callie House, and the Isaiah Dickinson, and the Ex-Slave Mutual Bounty and Pension Association back in the late 1800s, whether it was Queen Mother Audley Moore, who kept the issue of reparations alive her entire life, whether it was the Republic of New Africa, who in its Declaration of Independence said, we claim no rights from the United States, other than those rights belonging to oppressed people, wherever they may be, and these include the right to reparations. Whether it was Dorothy Lewis and the Black Reparations Commission, the African National Reparations Organization, the Black United Front, and Conrad Worrell, whether it's the Nation of Islam, who's always talked about exempting Black people from all taxation as long as we are denied justice, all the way through what I call the dawning of the modern era reparations movement, the founding of Incobo, which you were there, Matamela Mark Thompson, the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America. I remember that meeting September 1987, when the call came through for all reparations-loving people to come to Washington, D.C. and determine how are we going to push and move this movement, this issue forward. And then we decided we need to take it from the edges of, the Black nationalist movement and bring it out more so in the mainstream. And the National Conference of Black Lawyers was, I would say, the first, you might not consider a mainstream organization, but it wasn't a Black nationalist, Black power formation. It was a legal organization that, served to help and represent people. But they really came on board and really helped to push with sororities and fraternities, with religious institutions, with mainstream civil rights organizations. And the rest is just current history.
No question about it. And very, very important history at that. How are you feeling about this, the hearing, the upcoming hearing, and how important it will be in terms of moving HR 40 forward? Because after all, we've got to have a hearing. Hopefully that will lead to a markup. What are your forecasts about the hearing situation?
So let me just backtrack for a moment, if I may, because there was a historic hearing after nearly 2 decades of no hearings last year on June 10th. Historic in that it was the first time there was a hearing in quite so many years on HR 40, the Commission to Study and Develop Reparation Proposals for African Americans. And that was the hearing where Ta-Nehisi Coates spoke, and Danny Glover, and National African American Reparations Commissioner Julianne Malveaux, and others all spoke so very eloquently and helped to push this information even further along the map. But the hearing is just another step along the path to passage. Each Congress, the bill has to be reintroduced. So although last Congress, we had the height of co-sponsors that we have ever had, I think up to about 175 or more, something along those lines in the House, and I think about 20 in the Senate. We had to start from scratch now with the beginning of the 117th Congress where we are now. So the hearing is going to be tomorrow. Again, it is a requisite towards getting the markup and then the vote. So the bill is moving along the path that actually it should have moved along 30 years ago.
Are you confident that with all the co-sponsors, the unprecedented number, that this bill, because we had hoped it would have been passed last year, do we have reason to be confident that it will be passed now in 2021?
Well, the issue of passing is a nuanced one. I am confident that something will occur, whether it's legislatively or whether it's by executive order. Although one might think that because the Democrats control the House, have the majority in the House and equal distance, I guess you could say, in the Senate and the White House, that it should be a slam dunk. Well, just like DC statehood, not necessarily, because you need what's called a supermajority in the Senate in order to really pass and override a veto. which really happened all throughout the era when IDB Wells in the early days of the NAACP were fighting against lynching, anti-lynching, and they were always continuously filibusters and not being able to muster enough votes to overcome the filibuster. So we do have an uphill battle. I'm not going to say we could just sit on our laurels now because everybody in the country is talking about reparations. We still have a way to go, either legislatively or pursuant to executive law.
This is very, very important. And also, if you could explain to our audience how reparations is not necessarily a one size fit all thing. And that's what the commission is for, to figure out what are the best proposals to bring about reparations, both individually and collectively, correct?
Absolutely. We see some people rhetorically think that reparations is just about get my check. It's just about a check. Oh my goodness.
Right.
The harm was so very multifaceted. Thus the remedy, the solutions must be multifaceted as well. I'm not diminishing the part of any legitimate reparations quest. Money damages is always a part, but absolutely, particularly in our situation where the harm is just totally and completely incalculable. I want to repeat that. Incalculable. National African American Reparations Commission says that no amount of monetary resources can ever, reach the level of remedy for us. So what do? We look at things in addition to monetary reparations. Let's look at land. We got land that was stolen. Let's look at housing, redlining and all that scenario. Let's look at truthful textbooks. I'm just learning some of our history, and I consider myself a historian. Let's look at repairing the harms from the war on drugs. Let's look at this health pandemic that we're currently in this country and the health deficit, what they call like the slave health deficit that travels in our genes, epigenetic, intergenerational trauma traveling within our genes. All of those things need to be remedied. Monuments and, museums, the right to self-determination. What do I mean by that? Some people might want to go back to Africa. Are they supposed to just jump in the river and swim naked? No, they need repatriation resources. Some people, okay, want to establish an independent Black nation. And whatever this other people, most folk at this stage want to join this country and really make citizenship, really make a multiracial nation a reality. Well, what are the types of policies and practices that need to be put into place to enable that to happen? So the right to self-determination, determining what people want as a people, should be a part of the reparations equation as well. And don't let me forget about this. Clemency, commutations, and pardons for all of those who were victims of the FBI's once secret, quite illegal movement program against the Black community, the COINTELPRO, the counterintelligence program. And there is precedent for that. The Japanese American Reparations Act passed in 1988 not only provided for $20,000 to each Japanese American detention camp survivor, a trust fund to be used to educate folk about their suffering, a formal apology for the United States government, but also, Brother Matsamela, it included a pardon for all of those convicted of resisting detention camp internment. And I just say that because we got folk languishing in prison. Sundiata Acoli, Mutulu Shakur, Leonard Pelham, folk languishing in prison as a result of the illegal war-like tactics that arms of the U.S. government used against us. So there's precedent for pardons as well.
Well, and now that you mentioned it, everybody's going crazy over the Judas and the Black Messiah movie. Oh, this is great. Love it, love it, love it. But it's not just great. It is a lesson in what Nkechi is talking about. The movie depicts COINTELPRO assassinating Fred Hampton and Mark Clark. What it also reveals is that there are those who are members of the Black Panther Party who are still languishing in prison. So the movies, you have to start thinking about things in a reparational way, folks, right, Nkechi? So don't just look at a movie and go, oh, this is so good. We had a movie watch party. No, it's more than that. That movie, if you look at it from a reparational point of view, you want to get out here and fight even harder for HR 40 to be made a reality, right, Nkechi?
Absolutely. And I really love the way you framed that. Everything must be looked at. Everything for our people must be looked at from a reparationist point of view. Thank you for that. I'm going to use that.
Well, feel free, because this is a very important moment for us, a very important time for us. I mean, as you said, getting the bill passed is relative and maybe somewhat rhetorical, but we've not come this close before. Black people have been giving our lives and our votes to white elected officials since forever. I mean, you would not have a Joe Biden and a Kamala Harris if it weren't for black folk and the black vote, particularly in a cotton state like Georgia. Doesn't this administration owe us either signing the bill if it's passed, or if the bill gets hung up, appointing the commission as an executive order? Don't we have a right to demand that of this administration, Nkechi?
Absolutely and completely. Our people have saved this country time after time after time. The most recent being, the election in Georgia, and where we are now today in the 117th Congress with this new administration would not be in existence if it were not for our Black people. And, it's not a heavy lift. Let's not get it twisted. H.R. 40 does not give 1 red cent to anybody. All it does is set up a commission. That's why it boggles me as to why there is such resistance. We're talking about a commission to study and develop proposals. It doesn't pass the proposals. It's not the end all or the final say. It's simply to gather together the experts to look at the issue, look at all of the evidence, open up the casket, as I always say, that is there, and to develop proposals to submit to Congress for discussion and debate. It ain't a heavy lift, y'all. And for the current administration, the Biden-Harris administration, to just go on and pass the bill through executive order right now, so we don't have to wait through getting more co-sponsors, so we don't have to wait through, a possible filibuster or anything along those lines. Do it now and let the commission start its work.
Yeah, no, that's very important. That's what we need, folks. And we should also mention that the bill has evolved. Some people are even confused. Oh, it's just a study. It's just a study, But it's not. Can you explain to the audience how the bill has evolved and changed from just being a study bill and more now of a remedy bill, Nkechi?
So I was back there in 1989 when NCOBA, National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America, worked very closely with Congressman John Conyers in crafting the original H.R. 40, the commission to study reparation proposals. And it was strategic to do it that way. The Japanese American Redress Bill had just passed. The model that they used was to institute a federally chartered commission to study the issue. And then after that study, then they went back and developed proposals. Well, after 30 years, it was decided around the conference table of NARC, National African American Reparations Commission, led by Dr. Ron Daniels, when one of our commissioners, Kim Howard, who is a co-chair of NCOBA, said, look, we've studied this enough. We have all of this evidence, all of these books, all of these articles, all of this research that is enveloped over the past 30 years. We don't need to study this anymore. The studies are there. The bill, when it's reintroduced, has to include not just study, but also about the work of actually developing the proposals that will be submitted to Congress. So we don't have to have an 8-year wait like the Japanese had between their study bill and their actual proposal. Let's just envelop it all in one. So at the beginning of the 115th Congress, I think it was, at the retirement of John Conyers, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee took up the reins with the newly updated bill, H.R. 40, the commission to study and develop reparation proposals for African Americans. And now we do have a Senate complement to the bill, introduced by Senator Cory Booker, and that also has the number 40. So that's S40. So now we have H.R. 40 and we have S40. all coming from that campaign promise way back then after the Civil War to provide free families with the hallowed 40 acres and the mule. Amen. So that's where the 40 comes from.
Amen. Nkechi, in closing, please give our audience a charge and some marching orders as to why they should contact their elected officials to support H.R. 40 and Senate Bill 40.
Everybody out there within the sound of my voice need to do what is important, need to do what is necessary, need to do it now. Need to contact your representatives, need to contact your senators, and need to contact the Biden-Harris team of the critical importance right here, right now, today of passing H.R. 40 so that we can be about the task of correcting issues that have remained unresolved, unreckoned with since the end of the Civil War. The time is now. We cannot wait. Reparations now.
Amen. Our sister Nkechi Taifa. Now, folks, I'm well aware that most of you, I hope you'll come back and download this podcast, share it to others, share it with others. I'm sure most of you did not hear most of what was said the first listening, because you heard me talk about the book and the sex tape, and you probably got off to go and Google that and order the book, which is good. We want people to buy the book. Now come back after you done that. Come back, listen again, so you can hear everything about reparations as well. So we did a book launch for Nkechi, y'all, and hundreds of people was on the book launch on Zoom, and then I interviewed her and talked about sex tape. Everybody got off the Zoom to go order the book. So it worked and it came back. But, it was but it's in the book, so you all can read it. I'm not going to give any more away. You all can read about it because we know that's what folks like to read about. But we appreciate.
There's a lot of other stuff in that book, too.
Oh, yeah, it's a lot of stuff. I mean, and she alluded to y'all, Nkechi is a journeywoman when it comes to our struggle. In fact, I'll be honest with you. We are, when we look at the people, and I'm not just saying this because I know Nkechi personally as a friend, but I sit here and think about you, Nkechi. There aren't a lot of people still around who have overlapped as many revolutionary organizations as you have, and have actually been a part. I mean, from Black Panther Party, Republic of New Africa, National Conference of Black Lawyers, on and on. There ain't a whole lot of people who, if you put them in a Venn diagram, would cut and intersect all of those. So we appreciate you for that. And the book talks about that. A lot of us, it's a, pop thing to be woke. I'm woke. But being woke was a little bit different in Nkechi's era when she was younger, when we were younger. You were part of an organization. You were part of real revolutionary work. And that's what it's really about. It's not about just putting stuff on social media. Okay. As some folk think. But Nkechi is that person. So if you want to learn, if you want someone in contemporary times to emulate, and to learn from, we invite you all to check out Black Power, Black Lawyer, not just for the sex tape, but for all the things that she's done and contributed to our revolutionary struggle, and she continues. She's really one of our connections to an era, and we've lost a lot of our revolutionaries, even in the past year in this COVID. But Nkechi is started so young. She's still with us and has a lot of that experience that she can share. The book shares that, and she does as well. So you all look her up, follow her. Tell everybody where to find you on social media too, Nkechi, so they can follow your social media and see some real stuff.
All right. Thank you very much, Brother Masamela. I'm on Twitter, Nkechi_Taifa. I'm on Instagram, Nkechi Taifa. I'm on Facebook. But just go to my website, www.blackpowerbblacklawyer.com. And there's information about ordering the book all up in there.
Wonderful. Amazing. Nkechi Taifa, we appreciate you. Thank you for joining us as always on Make It Plain. It's funny, folks, when you interview your friends that you've known for years, like, if we do an interview, we have to be as formal as we have to be. But this is how we talk all the time, because this is my revolutionary sister. Much love to you, sister, and we thank you.
Thank you, my brother. Peace and blessings.
Thanks for getting woke and listening to Make It Plain. Please remember to listen, like, subscribe, and wherever you get your podcasts, please give the show a 5-star rating. And please do spread the word. Let's all continue to pray for each other during this pandemic and this police-demic. If all hearts and minds are clear, it has been made plain.
Be a barbecue hero with delicious, ultra-low net carb hero bread, buns, and tortillas. Soft and fluffy, high in fiber, and with 0 grams of sugar, up to 10 grams of protein, coming in at under 100 calories per serving. Oh, and did I mention they taste like their mouth-watering traditional versions? I mean, what's not to love? Use code AH10 for 10% off your first hero bread purchase at hero.co. That's AH10 for 10% off at hero.co.